And good evening, and welcome to the Jungle Chasers show, where we hope to educate you on the weather as we learn ourselves, but also entertain you. My name is Patty, and my call sign for amateur radio is KD0AEL. I am the regional coordinator for Southwest Missouri Skywarn. And welcome aboard. We've got a special treat for you tonight as we are going to highlight some severe weather across the pond, as some might say. And we spent quite a bit of time last night with our own devastating Hurricane Laura as it came ashore. And we may devote a little time to that, but we are going to have our special member of our panel here talk about the weather that they receive over in Great Britain. Welcome aboard and buckle up for the ride. Mr. Rodney.
And hello, my name is Rodney. My call sign is K0FZ. I work with Patty as a net control for regional and for Greene County. I work pretty closely with Franklin as far as that's concerned. I'm a secondary on both nets as a net control. And of course, weather enthusiast, and always enjoy learning new things. So if I can learn something, I'm sure you can too. So welcome to the show.
And I'm Steve, KA0SPM, and I'm kind of the hopefully producer of things tonight. I did a rework on the some of the board stuff. Hopefully that will function a little better than it did last night. And kind of looking forward to tonight's show because we've got comparisons between weather services, I guess. So also going to be joined by Franklin as soon as he gets his stuff organized. Looks like he's having some computer issues, but he'll be with us shortly. And I'm going to turn it over to Kieran. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
You may know me from the past few of them. My name's Kieran. I don't really have a call sign because I don't deal with all of that sort of stuff at the moment. Might get into it later on, but not currently.
Hang out with us long enough and it's liable to happen.
Well, I kind of do through the police radios.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Not
And
quite as good, you know.
There he is.
There's Franklin.
Hey.
Go ahead and introduce yourself, Franklin.
Hi, my name is Franklin. Call sign is KD0RSJ, and I am the late to the party coordinator for Greene County Skywarn. I also assist with the Southwest Missouri Regional Skywarn as well.
It was supposed to be me that was late, Franklin.
Well, I know. I'm still having audio headset issues. I decided to get on the Skype call early tonight, being I still had issues last night. Absolutely everything connected like it was supposed to. Everything sounded fine for about 2 minutes. Then Steve started coming in like every other syllable. And I was like, well, is it on my end or at his end? So I went to play some audio in iTunes. Yeah, it was doing the exact same thing, so I had to restart the whole computer.
Mm-hmm.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Well, tonight, I think the whole world has seen the devastation that we've seen here in our states directly to the south. And I'm sure we can probably come up with some pictures here in a bit. However, one of the things that's occurring right now, and that's in the state of Arkansas, which is directly to the south of us, we have a good deal of flooding concerns.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting thing is that in the United Kingdom, they've also had some flooding problems. And so tonight, the way I think we're going to do this is we're going to kind of put Kieran on the hot seat a little bit and ask him some questions about and so that we know where we're headed with this one, what kind of weather reports do you receive in the United Kingdom? And we will ask about, conditions. I know that you are involved in some emergency responses in that regard.
Hmm.
And hopefully along the way we can do some comparisons, because I think from the rant, and don't forget we will have a 5-minute rant on the show, which is one of our favorites. Um,
Hmm.
it seemed that there were some things that were um, similar to in people's behavior. So we'll start out with Kieran, if you would talk to us a little bit about what kind of weather reports you get in regards to flooding. Maybe you could kind of describe the authorities, as it were, that do that sort of thing for you.
I mean, for us, the weather service that we get is called the Met Office. That's one of the main ones for us. Unfortunately, due to the I don't really know what it is, but they're very, very, very slow at actually getting warnings out. When it comes to flooding and stuff like that, it's normally already flooded before they tell us it's going to flood. Um, it's actually very, very bad. I actually call it a lack thereof weather service. Um, Even our daily like sort of weather reports on the news and stuff in the mornings, um, it's just very off. They can tell me it's bright and sunny, and why that's going on during the window in the background, I can see that it's pouring down with rain. And that it's just little things. I know it's really difficult, especially over here in the UK, to actually predict our weather, but it's quite hilarious how wrong they get it quite often. Um, Even today, it was supposed to be sunny, bright spells, and we've actually got severe flooding again today. Um, Quite a few people are evacuated. Quite a few people flooded out their cars during going down roads that were actually closed. I had one where I was blocking a road and they actually went around me and then got stuck in the water. It's, yeah.
So
It's not fun.
I mean, the thing about it is you don't want to make fun, but it's almost like they asked for it, but they don't really think about it the same way we do here in the States, right?
No, quite often I know they do like go around signs and stuff like that. But when we put out a police road closed sign
Hmm.
and put cones all around, we can even stick a police car there with its flashing lights on, and they will still get around it and try and go. It's like a challenge to them.
Like herding
The
cats.
UK is not very rule abiding.
That kind of sounds a lot like kind of what me and Patty have heard the Weather Service and some of the other emergency management and law enforcement agencies here in Southwest Missouri say at some of the IWT meetings that we've went to. There was one time that I had asked Steve Runnels, who is the warning coordinator for the Springfield office, which covers Southwest Missouri. What would be the possibility of, at some of the worst places, they actually have like permanent gates that they could even padlock them. And he had said that at some of the locations, they actually do have permanent metal gates. And they used to sometimes people would go out and padlock them. People would cut the padlocks off with boat cutters and still go through the flooded roadway anyway. So they stopped doing it.
Yeah, that's pretty much the case here. We do have a few that are like that, which have permanent gates that can go across the whole road. One of them, it got actually destroyed. A car
Wow.
just drove through the gate, didn't even, just smashed it right open with his car.
Wow.
And one of the others had their locks cut about 15, 20 times, and then we just eventually gave up and just said, well, if you're going to go through it, then
Yeah.
we can't really do much at this point.
So, Kieran, another question for you, and I'll let Steve, obviously, he's got more questions than I probably do. But do these people who blatantly go around barricades and things like that, do they get, do they get fined? Do they get reprimanded? Or do they just kind of say, well, see what you did? What kind of repercussions or is there any kind of, reprimand, so to speak? I guess the right word I'm saying is, do they violate any kind of rules when they do something like that?
It's a good question. I go on a case-by-case basis. Like, if there's a sign there and we just have a sign, we don't actually have a patrol car there or anything like that, we normally give them a fine, and it's basically a fixed penalty notice, we call it. Which doesn't incur any points on their license, but it does come with a £500 fine for basically disobeying the signs and going down a roadway that could cause actual bodily harm to somebody. And it also causes danger for the people that then have to go in and rescue them and the vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Which obviously that all the expenses are paid by the driver of the car. But if we have police cars there and we're actually actively blocking the road and they go past us, depending on the situation, quite often it can be classed as dangerous driving or driving without due care and attention, which in some cases can actually be an arrestable offence, but does come with 5 points on their driver's licence and up to £1,000 fine.
So they just kind of take their fate and roll with it and hope for the best.
Yeah. I will say though that you can only have in the UK, you can only have 12 points on your driver's license before your license is revoked, taken away from you for 2 years.
You think that'd be enough incentive to make them stop?
You would hope so.
Yeah. Now, I was just kind of thinking of a question. Of course, you've got the penalty for them doing this, but I'm wondering, is it kind of a similar situation as it is here, that unless you just happen to have someone sitting right there to see them do it, or if it's like maybe a roadway that's maybe covered by a closed circuit camera or something like that, how many of these offenders do you guys actually catch and enforce the penalties against? If it's anything like over here, I'd say it would be a low number, but maybe over in the UK, maybe you guys have the infrastructure with the cameras and everything that maybe you can track these people down easier and more often, actually, give them that fine and that ticket, and if it's something that they get points, so that they get that penalty to maybe make them think twice next time.
It's actually a very good question, because we're actually trialing something at the moment, which is with our signs, we actually have a camera on the back of the sign.
Okay.
And quite often it's like a speed camera, but instead of it detecting speed, it detects motion.
Okay.
So when a car comes past the sign, the camera will activate and it will take a photo of the license plate. So we can see that vehicle has now passed the sign and passed the road closed sign. So then we can deal with it from there. If we then find that car later on in the puddle or in the flood, or whether we can see that it's driven through because we got a sign on the other side which has a camera which we can see that it's gotten through, but they would still incur the fine and the points.
Well,
because they still disobeyed the sign.
And even at that, if need be, after the weather event is over, if you've got their license plate, and as long as everything is registered properly and everything, then after the event is over, you could go back and track them down and say, hey, we have 2 pictures of you going through this flooded roadway. You can't do that. Here's your ticket and your fine. That sounds like something that would be a great ideal, and it's so simplistic. I wonder if they could do something like that over here. That sounds interesting.
It's definitely a good idea, and it is helping out in some of the roadways that we go down. But what we do is we don't track them down. Everything is done via DVLA, which is our driver's license agency, and who we have to register our vehicles with. I think for you it's the DMV or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, all we have to do is apply to them, and they give us the information, and then we just send a fine out and a fixed penalty notice to the driver or to the registered owner. If they weren't driving it, they then have to send in the details of the person who was driving it. And if they don't do that, then they get the points and the fine, even though they weren't driving, but they failed to give up the driver that was driving. So they're the registered owner, so they're legally responsible for the vehicle.
Gotcha.
So I've just included a rather interesting graphic. Having spent some time looking at the Met Office, their structure, the size of the state of Missouri, if you wanted to add the landmass up, you could probably call it about England. And that would be taking away Wales and Scotland, and you would have the landmass roughly of Missouri. And our state is covered, and I think this is correct, there are 6 weather offices that cover the whole state. Patty is saying 3.
There are 3.
But
3,
there's
that's what I was thinking.
Kansas City, St. Louis, Springfield, Paducah,
Springfield.
the Quad
Yeah.
Cities.
So 4.
Paducah covers the Boot Hill.
Now, St. Louis and Quad Cities, I think, share in the duty of the upper corner, northeast part of the state. But that's almost an area that's just not covered when you get to extreme northeast Missouri.
Let's see, I
So-
had a...
So given
Yeah.
that,
So 5 basically.
given that, and Kieran, I don't know if you have a intimate knowledge of the weather of the Met Office. Do they do a similar thing where they have certain areas that they're responsible for?
I know that they do have spotters dotted around the UK. It's all under the Met Office. There's not like different things or different names for them. But that's about as far as my knowledge goes with that. I must admit, I don't really know much about that side of stuff.
So ours is all under the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. But it's the United States Weather Service. They have 120 offices across our country and Puerto Rico, Alaska, Hawaii. So 3 of those physically sit in the state of Missouri, where, as Steve mentioned, our southeast corner of the state is actually covered by a Weather Service office that sits in the state of Kentucky, and then that northeast corner by more of Quad City, Iowa, Illinois area. So they have county areas that they actually serve per office. Our office here in the city of Springfield covers 37 counties. 34 of those are in southwest Missouri, and 3 of those are in southeast Kansas. So it's based on radar coverage primarily.
So, when we say counties, I think in the UK you would consider it a shire.
Shires.
Is that correct?
To be honest, I've never actually called them. Never heard them called that. The different like places we do call them counties.
You do call them counties, okay.
Yeah. Or that's how I've always heard them being called.
Okay.
There you go.
So
That's an excellent graphic.
Yeah, are you
Excuse me.
seeing that? I just kind of popped that up. It's not the clearest because it's a small photo and it's actually a JPEG. I can't remember if I got this off of the National Weather Service's page or not, but so this area here would be the Kansas City area. Here is Springfield, which does, as Patty said, cover 3 counties in southeast Kansas. Then here is St. Louis. Here's the area that's kind of covered by Paducah. And I did kind of forget the very bottom of the Boot Hill, I think, is actually covered by Memphis. And then, like you
I
said,
did
you've
not
got
know
that
that.
little northeast corner up here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So yeah, 6 actual offices that cover the state of Missouri.
Steve was correct.
So,
Well, wait a minute. Look up in the top. It looks like, are you referring to, see where it says DVN? Is there a little
Yeah.
area up there too?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was
These
counting
right here.
that. That
Okay.
Davitt's bordered Quad Cities. They call it Quad Cities.
Gotcha.
and the problem is that didn't show up, so
Oh, okay.
let me bring one in here so that you can see it. Sorry about that.
Yeah, and that's pretty much basically the same, about the same thing as what I was showing. It might be a little bit clearer.
Yeah, it's a bit more of a clearer image, but you can definitely see the same information.
Right. So, in that idea where you have multiple offices that take care of things, and it sounds like you guys probably are kind of in the same way. Do they routinely, and I'm just guessing here because I know that we can get pretty definitive weather reports on our mobile phones, based on location. Is that something that happens where you are?
Yeah, we do get weather reports on my phone, and I can send you a picture of what we actually get. It's just very spotty whether it's actually correct or not. Because again, I've looked on my phone to see what the weather is, and why it's saying it's being sunny. I'm getting absolutely soaked because it's pouring down with rain.
Of course, Kieran, you should expect that because of a line in the movie, The League of Distinguished Gentlemen, dressed for an English summer, which is rain, right?
Yep. Although, to be honest, we've actually had a very, very good summer over here. It has been very, very, very hot.
So what?
So that basically. Oh,
go ahead.
sorry, Steve. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
When you were referring to it being very hot, are you saying in most of the time your summers are rather cool?
Yeah, it's only been sort of the past 4 years that it's actually been half decent summers. Before then, I've always remembered them to be really, really quite bad.
So am I hotter or colder?
It's gotten a lot warmer.
Oh,
So it used to be quite cold.
okay. See, that always kind of throws us off. Summer always kind of equates to really warm weather. And when you said, "Oh, it's been rather quite nice in respect to, um, your summers are what you would be almost be like spring weather for us, if I trying to equate to that."
Yeah, it's quite similar.
But I can put up the graphic here of the current conditions.
He just posted to us 12C um,
Okay.
or overnight over there. That's the equivalent of 53.6 degrees Fahrenheit here, which
Love
I would
that.
be outside absolutely relishing in it.
I'd be in a t-shirt and shorts.
Yeah, exactly.
T-shirt and shorts. It's actually thunderstorming outside.
Right.
I'd still be in t-shirts and shorts.
I'm not. I don't know how to.
But that's London. Now, whether that's true for where you are, I'm sure you're pretty close to it. So
Yeah, I'm literally not even an hour outside of London, so it's pretty much the same.
right. So the one thing that I have noticed, and just because, Karen, you'd be surprised at the number of English YouTube channels I follow, for various reasons. And the latest one, they do a lot of exploring of old canals and old railroads.
Mm.
And
Oh yes.
I really enjoy that stuff, and I'm gonna admit too that there's some of the older English stuff that I really appreciate, and I will admit that I've probably got a little bit of English racing or British racing green running in my blood because I love the old race cars. They're just cool as heck. But what I've noticed is that in the topography there around where you are in various places, people have been doing stuff there for centuries, and one would get the idea that it's pretty civilized and pretty controlled, but then I hear you tell stories of flooding and things that happen that we, here it's a little wilder, a little rougher. We know that there's spots out there where there can be floods, but those aren't real obvious where you are. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, it's really not very obvious. A lot of obviously the hot spots are where lakes, ponds, and canals are, because they just overflow and the water flows wherever it wants. Quite often it goes to the lowest point, which is normally a town or a city, and it just floods that out completely, and we just can't cope with the water that comes in. And you got the rain coming down from there, you got the rain coming down from the hills, because our island is quite hilly and not very flat. So we just get water from all places, and especially if you're living at the bottom of the hills, you do get quite bad. I mean, I think I sent some pictures the other day of literally houses pretty much underwater, and there's just no stopping it.
Do you have teams of rescue workers that specialize in water rescue?
Yes, we do. They obviously with the army, fire departments, paramedics have a couple, not that many. That's not really their forte. The police have obviously their dive teams, and a few other ones. And normally it's all done by helicopter and boat, but when it's prolonged and there's quite a long time of flooding, we do have to send out our dive teams for recovery and search and rescue.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, Patty, and Steve may also know the answer to this. Used to kind of around here, most of the water rescue teams were kind of on a county by county basis through the county sheriff's office, but haven't they within recent years consolidated much of that under the state highway patrol now?
The State Highway Patrol has dive teams. Obviously, the Water Patrol is Highway Patrol. But the water rescue is actually a specialty within the fire departments, even the volunteers.
Oh, okay. Okay, I was
So,
thinking it was through the county sheriff's office.
no, no, no.
Okay.
It's through the fire departments, whether that be a local municipality or if it's a volunteer out in the country, smaller town regions. Um, so they have their own teams that get together, and of course they have joint operations agreements across the line should they be short-staffed
Oh,
for
yeah.
whatever reason. So yeah, it's all done within fire.
Because I know oftentimes, even here in Springfield, if it's kind of a big fire, they will call in fire trucks from some of the local surrounding fire districts and stuff to help out, and then sometimes Springfield goes out and helps them.
Certainly. For example, southeast corner of Springfield is covered in part by Logan Rogersville, but also by, I think it's fire stations 11 and 12 in Springfield.
Yeah, I know
So
12
yes,
is
they
out
do
there
joint operations.
on Blackman Road, and I was quite surprised because we were out there just the other day to see a Logan Rogersville fire station there on Blackman Road, just right down the road from Fire Station 12. I was like,
It's
I
been
didn't know
there
they
a long
had.
time.
Well, I know, but I was like, I didn't know they had a station this close to Springfield. Learned something new.
This is
So
why we
and
do what
and
we do.
much as Kieran was saying, they also do a lot of the rescue via boat and helicopter, as much as they can from land. But a lot of it is also done with boat or inflatables
Mhm.
and helicopters. It sounds like your topography is a lot the same as ours here in the Greene County area and other surrounding counties, where you have a lot of hilly terrain, and when there's rainfall, it tends to go to certain areas, and it of course goes downhill toward larger bodies of water. But those crossroads, um, are does your road system, are they very good about keeping the roads above those low water crossings, or do you have the actual low water crossings that, because they're dry most of the time, um, that people go ahead and use those?
It all depends on where you are. Some areas are quite good at it, like London and places around there. When you start getting into the back areas of places, it's terrible. Quite often, you'll actually find roadways where there's a river. It's like they built a road through the river because it goes down into a dip, and you've got two bodies of water each side.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as it overflows, it literally makes a river into the road, and it just makes that road impassable.
Steve, can you possibly pull up that spot down Christian County where the road goes through the river, literally, even on a dry day?
Which
where
one?
I'm talking about.
You have quite a few then.
Begins with a C, and it just went off the top. It just went away. Great example of this. What is that little town down there where they used to do the snake hunts?
Is it on the James River?
Yeah, well, on
I think it's the Finley.
Finley. Okay,
The
yeah, that
Finley,
one floods
okay.
pretty bad too
So-
sometimes.
Chadwick.
Oh, okay,
Chadwick.
That's what I'm thinking about.
Okay, gotcha.
There's a road into Mark Twain, and you're going down the road and literally make a right turn into the river, and down the river you go.
Well, let's see.
Great example of that.
Yeah,
125 is one of those great roads. You can see by how straight it is that we're talking hilly.
There is a bridge just east of my grandparents' house.
That's Swan Creek.
That it's a small little bridge, and whenever the creek is fairly low, water goes underneath the bridge, but if we get very much rain, it will get right to the underneath of the bridge. And then if we get very much more rain, it will actually start flowing over the top of the bridge.
We have
it's not a very tall bridge.
I am gonna say I can't think of any right at the moment. I mean, there's a lot of county roads, but
yeah,
one of the interesting ones. This is the town of Dot, and they've improved it greatly. And that's an old mill site, and you can see the dam that they broke through the center of. They didn't remove the dam, but they were forced to because someone drowned because they got caught in a crack down in the bottom of it. 318, which is a crossing, used to be basically a low water crossing with a little concrete part over the deepest part of the water. And it's been vastly improved since. But these Ozark County roads are basically a dirt road that's been dug through the woods with a bulldozer.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this area. I've rode motorcycle down here and deer hunted. I can find the place back. I'll show you where I deer hunted.
Yeah, and see, that's one thing that Patty's brought up before in the past that we are really fortunate with in Greene County, particularly from a storm spotter standpoint. Pretty much all of our county roads are all asphalted, except for I think there's just one road that there's like maybe 50 to 100 feet of it that they hadn't at one time asphalted. And did you say that that was largely due to Mel Carnahan getting the funding for that?
Our road system is largely due to Truman.
Oh, okay.
So this is Uncle Orville's house down in Ozark County. You notice one striking feature? There's no outhouse. And there's no indoor water either.
No in-house. There's no outhouse or in-house.
I asked Orville one time
There's
where his family
window.
come from. He said over by Pomona. He had no idea where his... Because, you know, we're all emigres from somewhere. I can track mine back to maybe London. But, not Orville.
Please tell me they at least have chamber pots.
Say again?
I said, please tell me they at least have chamber pots.
They have a back
Probably
door.
a tree.
They have a back
used
door
to-
and a tree.
I used to go cut wood. I'm sharing the spot I'm talking about, Steve. I found it. I did a screenshot. So it's coming up in chat. I used to help cut wood for an older couple that lived up by Elkland. And even in the cold of winter, we'd go out and have coffee with them, etc. You had to go. You went out the back window, literally, and found a spot.
Kind of like a dog having to go outside in the backyard and find your spot.
Right. They didn't want it by the back door, so you had to go out the window.
Oh, goodness. And we're going to go off a tangent big time. Were we talking about flooding?
I will stick with my indoor outhouse.
Well, you know, some of this is related because, well, I think, honestly, we probably have a little bit more potential for those river problems, you know, because of the type of ground that we live on here. It's not real absorbent, so, and it's all hilly, so it all runs into somewhere. England is really no different. It's just that some of the pathways that they take are a little more civilized. But honestly, maybe not. Karen, you could go within a short distance and find a road used by the Romans.
Oh yeah, I actually have one. We call them byways,
Yeah.
which is basically unkept roads. So legally they are roads and you can drive down them, but they are completely unkept and they are an absolute nightmare. That's why I have my off-roader. But yeah, all of those roads are quite bad, especially with the weather we had now. I actually went out the other day and I had a spare 5 minutes just to go and have a look down the lanes. And with my G-Wagon, I still managed to nearly get stuck. It's
Really?
the water was halfway up the door in a big lifted car, and because you just got thick mud underneath of it, it's yeah, got a little bit interesting.
Yeah,
Wow.
that don't sound fun.
The graphic I'm going to put up,
Fun.
I'm going to blame a cat.
A cat?
This is the
I said blame
city
Rodney.
of Huddersfield, and the reason I know about this place is because of a station cat, and he's located on one of the British Rail stations. It's a cute little kitty. He's got his own webpage. But if you look at the river here in Huddersfield, you notice that it's built. They're built right up against it. And I mean both sides. It's there's not a lot of give there if you get high water. As soon as it breaks through the little walls, the retaining walls they got, it's flooding parking lots, it's flooding roads.
Don't know exactly, but I do think that part of Huddersfield is underwater at the moment.
I I would believe it. And then
I know I saw that river on the news the other day that it broke its walls and was starting to overflow. So by now I would have thought quite a lot of that would be flooded. I don't know if it would quite be underwater, but it will be quite well flooded.
right, and then add into it you've got the Great British Canal System here that no doubt is a contributing factor, because when the rivers come up, the pools between the locks will get high too. But that's even worse in built into the city, where you have.
I do have a funny story about those canals though, or more like the canal boats.
Right.
Because they overflow, the canals overflow, quite often we actually find canal boats or in the middle of the road once
Oh.
it dies down. Or if it's gone high enough, we've actually found one on the top of a building before.
Oh my.
Oh,
Oh
wow.
my.
And
Robbie,
there-
missed
And people
you.
actually live on those boats, so
Yes.
that was quite a wild ride for somebody.
Yes, that there are several people who have YouTube channels. Cruising the Cut is one who lives aboard his boat, and it's about 8 feet wide and about 40 feet long. So they're real long, skinny boats. I'm sure there's one in this picture somewhere, but I don't know. There's one. That's a canal boat. Now, again, there's a little bit more, I guess, stuff done in England and the United Kingdom than we see here, because they built canals and they went after it seriously. They were the highways back in the 1700s, and then it was railroads, and they just built them all over the place. And then later on realized, well, maybe we don't need that many. but you can pretty much bet somewhere a lot of this land has had something done to it in the past. And so, other than the basic topography, it's man-made. It's not like we got a lot of around here where it's just plain old whatever it is.
Where my house is, my back garden would have actually been a canal. There was a whole canal system that went all the way through this area, and then they filled it all in and built a big housing estate on it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I guess the weird part about it is that I can kind of understand where people could get a sense of it never floods, the road never gets over water, so I never think about that. You know, hurricanes happen in the States. They don't happen here, right? Same thing with flooding.
I've been thinking twice after the weather we've had the past few days.
Well, from what I can tell about the weather that you guys are getting, it's the remnants of stuff that we got a week ago. It's just traveled across the ocean in waves, and the Met Office names every one of those storms that comes in. Now, my next question for you, Kieran, goes like this. The news media seems to be really good about covering the aftermath, but not real great on the weather forecasting that.
No, they actually do get some really nice shots of the aftermath. But when it comes to pre-warning about this, we're halfway through it before they even start announcing that it's happening. It's like, yeah, I think we already know this is happening. It's kind of just look out the window.
Do you think that's probably one of the reasons why they don't take them seriously? I mean, a lot of it comes back to, well, it's already happened. Why are we taking warning now? You know, it's kind of an afterthought.
Yeah, it's quite a big joke over here, actually, at the Met Office. We do actually make jokes about it in the police, the fire, the EMS service, stuff like that. We all joke about it. It's quite funny sometimes.
So how many people do you think would have to get hurt or killed or dismembered in some way before they would actually start becoming more proactive about it? Is this just the way it's always been?
It's the way it's always been as long as I've, followed it and done all of that, but it's not been very good ever, as far as I can tell. It's always been pretty bad.
So the next.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. You got one more.
Well, I was just gonna say, you think it's from a lack of? Do you guys have government funding, or is this volunteers? How does the Met Ed office get, their resources? Not Med Ed. Sorry.
The Met Office is all government funded. And it's very, very, very highly government funded too. So funding isn't really their problem. It's just I don't know if they're just putting that money into the wrong technology or if they're putting that money into the places.
I wonder if a little bit of it is not that you guys don't have a certain amount of severe weather each year, but you just don't have the super severe weather like we have over here, and it kind of is a little bit of a rarity. I wonder if it's just a lack of experience with reading the radar, kind of looking at the forecast models, maybe how to disseminate it and get it out to the public. Because, most all of the National Weather Service offices here in the United States at some point throughout the year is quite active with severe weather, and usually during a storm season multiple times. storms every year. I mean, there's groups that pretty much like clockwork flock to Kansas and Oklahoma every year to do tons of research on all the severe storms and tornadoes that go through there. So I wonder if part of it is maybe just not having as much experience with dealing with it, and like I said, disseminating that information out to the public.
Now, I would be inclined to agree with you, because we don't actually do that, and it is quite a new thing. But over the past 5 years, it's gotten worse and worse and worse and worse.
Oh.
So I'm a little bit more concerned as to, after the first
Why
couple of
that
years,
is.
and they know that they're constantly getting it now,
Mm.
why they haven't put them through that training.
Why they have not
So-
improved.
Yeah. Or, put them through some sort of training or some sort of, like, get some information from, like America or somewhere that's
Mhm.
used to dealing with that, or do something.
Gotcha.
But absolutely nothing's changed. So I still kind of blame the Met Office for not being proactive enough to
Gotcha.
kind of get that information and sort of teach about it,
So with
Let me ask. I keep cutting Steve off.
no,
for
go
it.
ahead.
Well, I guess my question is, knowing that they don't have, the frequency of severe weather like we do, you guys don't have anything like radio, weather radios. Like if there was a bad thunderstorm, do you guys get notified on certain frequencies by the Met Office? Say take cover now, or do they just say, well, you're on your own?
I've never known of that, but then, as I said before, I'm not really in that kind of field. We don't get anything over the radio, again, unless it's too late. By the time our notifications come on our phone, we're already 5-10 minutes into it.
So your dispatchers don't advise you ahead of time?
Very, very rarely. Very rarely.
Kind of sounds like that they're kind of at the point that the United States was kind of in the 70s and early 80s, where you kind of had like maybe 5 minutes notice before something came up on you. Kind of what Rodney was talking about here. The National Weather Service maintains a series of radio transmitters, and basically what they do is they send out a continuous 24-hour signal on a specific frequency that gives weather forecasts, stuff that may be coming up in the next few days, current temperatures and weather conditions in the closest city to it and other cities around the region. But any time that there's severe weather in that office's area, every time they put out like a significant weather advisory, a flash flood warning, severe thunderstorm tornado watch or warning, that will send out a specific signal that will activate a weather radio that you can purchase at like Walmart, several other stores. I think even sometimes the fire departments will maybe provide them. Sometimes at certain events throughout the year, you might have groups that they paid to buy so many weather radios to hand out to the general public, and that along
Even
with
news
these,
stations here have
Yeah,
been known to do
have
that.
done that.
That's a
and-
perfect segue into my next question. In this
Okay,
part
it's
of
all
the
yours.
world, we have many amateur meteorologists. Some of them much more skilled than others. I mean, some of us are amateurs, really. There are other professional meteorologists that are doing their own thing, and it's not hard to find them right now because they were just all over the coverage of this hurricane. Is that something that goes on in the UK?
If it is, it's very well hidden. we don't really hear much about it. I must admit I don't actively look for that stuff, but it's not all over the place. Like for you, it's kind of like everywhere you look, there it is. For us, if it's out there, it's only on certain pages, and usually it's behind locked groups on Facebook and other things like that. So unless you into that sort of stuff quite heavily, you can't even get into the groups to get this information anyway.
Interesting. So here, even as recent as the 60s, they did not issue tornado warnings. They were actually told by the government not to. The Weather Service offices took the stance that if the public knew that there were dangers coming, that they would panic and act in a wrong manner. And it was actually a news broadcaster that brought this to task. And I believe it was in Topeka, Kansas. Tell me if I'm wrong here, gentlemen. Franklin, you were going to do that presentation on the history of the Weather Service. And he saw tremendous danger developing, and he actually put it on the air. And since that time, we've made great strides forward. Now, it's taken time. It's taken decades to get to where we are now, and with the advent of social media, we have things at our fingertips, from amber alerts to severe thunderstorm warnings to tornado warnings to whatever. But we also have persons like myself and Franklin and Rodney who I've been sitting here posting to social media because we've got some weather boiling for our southeastern counties. Also trying to spread some cheer with a beautiful rainbow. If Steve will bring that up at some point during our talk, I shared pictures.
Oh yeah, you did, didn't you?
I did a little enhancement on what Patrick sent me from Highlandville, but at least brought them out a little bit. They are gorgeous, gorgeous rainbow. From this evening, from these outer bands of this hurricane that are not bringing us any rain. But that being said, we live with severe weather on our back doorstep. It seems like across the United States all the time, and because we are such a huge country, we can just about pull up a radar and look and find something of interest somewhere in this country any given day.
Yeah, it's really rare to pull up a nationwide radar and not see something somewhere.
I'm pretty sure.
And I also, right behind that, shared, and it's not the most recent, because these storms have moved a bit. We've got tornado warnings in Lawrence, Arkansas, that are moving up toward our extreme southeast counties. Persons that are watching this that might be in Oregon County, take note. While these storms are weakening as they are moving to the northeast, they are kind of knocking on your door. So we are keeping an eye on that, and hopefully those persons down in Arkansas being affected will be safe tonight.
Yeah, definitely some places kind of along, like you said, in that extreme southeast area that could potentially be close to these storms are places like Thayer, Alton, Doniphan, Neelyville, maybe Poplar Bluff.
Right now,
I'm getting an active radar up.
So the tornado warning, actually, this is southwestern Randolph County, Lawrence County, and southeastern Sharp counties. In north central Arkansas until 9:45. Severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located near Minturn or near Hoxie. moving northwest at 55 miles per hour. Walnut Ridge, Black Rock, Imboden, Portia, Lynn, Ravenden, Annieville, Smithville, Powhatan, Calamine, Hoxie, Lake Charles State Park, Ravenden, Strawberry, Alicia, Minturn, Sedgwick, Wilford, Stranger's Home, and Nelsonville are in the path of the storm.
Yeah.
And these are still on the northeast quadrant of what was Laura yesterday as she comes through, leaving quite a swath of flood warnings and flash flood warnings. There's tornado warnings on this all the way down into that was north central Panola County, but Mississippi, that was just canceled. So
Gotcha.
still wreaking some havoc as it moves inland.
Let me see if I can get a little better.
Yeah, and Steve's just bringing up my point. We've got all this at our fingertips here, and because it does affect our everyday lives, and so frequently, I guess odd to me that more people are not more aware of the weather.
Oh yeah, definitely. You might not get quite as much detailed information as like on Radar Scope, or I haven't memorized the program that you and Rodney are using now, but these are more kind of geared more towards the serious weather amateur, or like Skywarn, or even sometimes professional meteorologists also uses these weather radar apps. But even if you've just got something like the Weather Channel app, or Weatherbug,
KY3 weather app,
your local news stations weather apps and stuff, most all of them provide at least basic radar that you can at least see the reflectivity. And some of them, like if I'm not mistaken, KY3s, don't they offer some basic velocity radar on there now too?
I'm not sure. I haven't used that one in a number of years.
Yeah.
But what you want to look for if you're interested in something for your phone to get warnings if you're not already getting them is to find an app that will follow you if you turn on your location, so that you can get warnings that pertain to your app, your actual location. And there's a number of those apps out there that do that.
Oh yeah. I know not Weather Underground. I know Weatherbug will follow you. I know the KY3 app, which of course that's specific to our area for one of our local news stations. But I'm sure wherever you are, there's probably a local news station app that has that similar functionality. It's been so long since I've used the Weather Channel app. I don't know whether it will follow you or if you have to put in a specific location.
I'd say as long as it's on any kind of smartphone, a lot of your apps are going to do that, as long as they're given permission for your GPS, which, there's a lot of people that would prefer not to have that information shared.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times it doesn't work, and they just get more of a broader forecast than anything.
And at a bare minimum, I think most of the smartphones anymore, and maybe even some of the non-smart, what they used to call feature phones, have got where you can get like at least like if there's a tornado warning in your area, as part of the civil alerts, they'll send that to your phone, very similar in the process like you would get an Amber Alert. So as long as you have that turned on, you'll at least get those most severe notices.
You notice
something else.
This is what we're getting from the UK for radar. Now, some of that may be because those products are not available to us here in the States.
Mm-hmm.
And I do know that that's a thing with some internet products, is they're just not available outside the country.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the rain radar, and it looks like
And that is what I get as well.
it's not.
Oh, okay.
not raining where you are, Kieran?
Yes, it is.
It is raining.
Oh,
That
boy.
means that's
It's
not even updated.
It's absolutely tipping buckets out there.
Oh man, that should be showing up.
Interesting. I get Northern Europe radar on my app, but I'm not getting any kind of data from it as far as rain. And there are no, like on the continental United States, I can go from weather station to weather station and actually zoom in on that local weather, but I see nothing. I see the White Cliffs of Dover quite clearly on this, but no cloud cover. Interesting.
All I can say is what I'm seeing, and what
Right.
I'm seeing is
It's raining and you're
pretty
not
wet.
getting any coverage. I
So
gotta
a big
say,
difference.
the people of Great Britain should be up in arms because you guys invented radar.
Yes.
You should be
would
rioting
never
in the
enforce
streets.
it.
You should be.
They invented radar to protect against during the Battle of Britain.
Yeah.
So a huge difference here that I'm going to point out. As a volunteer with the National Weather Service here, I've been granted privileges to get into a chat app with them. And you have to have special qualities, special training, and my approval if you would like it from our local area. Ronnie and Franklin both have the same ability to get into this app. And the people that are currently in this same chat app right now are with the National Weather Service office locally. They are from emergency management offices from across our region. They are with FEMA, which is the Federal Emergency Management Agency. There are fire stations that have people monitoring. There are other hams like myself from other parts of our region. There's law enforcement, quite a number of media in here because if weather pops, they want to be able to get that word out to their local people, as well as other weather service offices. And sometimes MoDOT is in here. MoDOT is our Missouri Department of Transportation. And I don't think the electric companies generally are in here.
I don't think so.
But we are what is called an integrated weather team, and we have quarterly meetings about events that have happened during that quarter prior to the meeting and how the responses went, how we were able to interact, how we can make our communication better. And that's our focus, is to improve our communication as we go. This has been a tremendous step forward in understanding what everyone's role is when severe weather comes through. And that information then translates out to the public as well, because the news media who are present at the meetings are able to say with assuredness, law enforcement's doing this, fire's doing that, etc. So I think it's been a wonderful tool, and they are doing great things with this. So that seems to be lacking where you are.
Well, I can assure you guys that somebody knows what the weather's going on, and just one image
certainly
will prove it. Can you see the label? Heathrow Airport.
Oh, that's what I was going to get ready to say. That's not Heathrow, is it?
Definitely.
And then,
aviation is in here too quite frequently.
The next one is. Let me see if I can find it back because it's not far away. Where did I see it? There we go.
And when schools are in session, there are actually representatives from the schools that
RAF
have
Northolt.
that have chat capabilities so that they can keep the children safe in our winter weather, because many of the areas that are served by buses are very rural. They want to know at what time do they need to release to get the kids home before the roads ice up. They need to know if they need to evacuate the kids home, if it's going to be flooding. All that information is shared in here. And pretty wonderful.
So
Yeah, and another thing that you wouldn't think of, I didn't know until like my first or second IWT meeting. A lot of times, some of the people from the school districts are responsible for opening up some of the FEMA storm shelters because they are actually part of the school buildings themselves.
Right, because the FEMA money that went into those storm shelters was directed at the schools, but the schools opted to allow the community members in, which is wonderful. It gives people that are in mobile homes and that kind of thing a chance to get to a safe place in the event of severe weather.
Oh, definitely.
So they're still watching these storms as they move a little closer.
Does it look like it's changing path, or is it pretty much still veering to the northeast?
So they just canceled the one tornado warning that was looking like it might affect Oregon County. The storms seem to be not translating well to the northwest at all. They reach a certain point and it's like they lose some of their energy. I think what they're watching for now is there is a band of potentially torrential rain that will be affecting them. It's already raining there.
Oh, yeah.
And has been pretty heavily in bands. This is a very heavy band on reflectivity that's coming in, so they've asked them to pass on any reports of flooding.
Gotcha. I'm seeing pretty much it kind of in an arc, kind of from Jonesboro over to Mountain View.
Almost to Clinton, actually.
Yeah,
Jonesboro to Pocahontas, over to about Horseshoe Bend, and that's actually Shirley, Marshall areas, just north of Clinton, Arkansas. Yeah.
guys, I gotta.
And this is what I told Steve. He walked out the door earlier and he was seeing these swirls in the sky, and it was like the clouds had taken on that arc of a rainbow. I said, well, honey, that's why they call them bands. These are the bands from Tropical Depression Laura.
I was feeling the tropicals. All right, I'm going to take a moment and give a big shout out to one of our greatest fans, K0DGR, the big 7-0 today. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Gene.
Happy birthday to you.
And a 73.
And a 73. And an 88.
I know, I can't really tell other than he got Reese's and a cake. If there was anything there of ham radio origin.
Pieces or peanut butter cups?
Reese's peanut butter cups. And Hershey's.
Oh.
Looks like a
Needs to be
combination.
pieces.
Oh,
And a Star Wars.
so good.
We'll all show
Anyone,
up out at Gene's
anyone
house and say,
who's-
we want to watch that movie.
anyone who was maybe 4 years old and was when they went and saw it and was a fan of ET will always love Reese's Pieces more than peanut butter cups.
I like peanut butter cups.
I like them both, but the ET fan in me will always choose Reese's Pieces.
So I have a new favorite, and it's new. And it is minis. It's Reese's minis, and they're about the size of a peanut butter cup, but they're thin, like a wafer. And they're dark chocolate with peanut butter.
Oh boy.
Good. I've had the white chocolate ones, but I didn't know they had ones with dark chocolate.
Yes, they do.
I love me dark chocolate.
Since we're talking about candy, Kieran, what's your favorite candy?
I don't actually eat that much candy. Normally, if I'm at the shops or something, or I'm picking something up while I'm out and about, I actually go for Cadbury milk chocolate, which is filled with caramel.
Mm-hmm.
They are really nice.
Cadbury? Is that what
Now,
you
see,
said?
that only break those
Yeah.
out during Easter. Otherwise,
Well-
you're never going to hear about Cadbury.
Well, the cream eggs, but some places you can find the Cadbury bars, kind of like what Kieran's talking about, throughout the year. It's just they're kind of rare.
I check Walgreens.
Yeah, I
because
think that
they
may be one
carry-
place I've
They
seen them.
carry Ghirardelli and Cadbury and several others that are kind of specialty bars.
And then see back way ago when Skaggs was still in business, and then even whenever that location was still a CVS up until they closed it here a couple years ago, they kind of carried some different candies and stuff that not as many other places around here did, but unfortunately they closed it.
Hmm.
Yeah, for us, more likely it's going to be some of the petrol stations like the Tesco's and the Shells. That they sort of the ones that stock most of that stuff for us. Local shop, which is the Co-op. Sometimes they carry them, but not all the time. It's mainly the main petrol stations. Because we don't have CVS and all that lot over here.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have frozen custard shops over there?
We do have a few up in London. Not so much over here, unfortunately. I would love some of them. I'm quite jealous of Rodney because the store that he's supposed to be taking over is only down the road from one.
Mm.
Mm.
Oh, come on, we were talking about this the other night, Rodney. Don't look like that.
I'm just trying to figure out which
He's
frozen
talking about
custard place
Brahms.
it is.
Now that's an ice cream store. Frozen custard is like ice cream, but it's richer and I think a little creamier.
Well, and there's been many debates over it, but if you go from a strictly culinary definition, true ice cream does not have egg yolks in it. Custard does. So that's kind of the technical difference between the two.
So you learn something new every time you watch this show.
Every single time. And speaking of there's the Huddersfield Station Cats, Felix and Bolt.
Cool.
And they do have
So-
their own page, Felix and Bolt, the Huddersfield Station Cats. And you could like it
So
on YouTube.
if you
Or
were an Andrew Lloyd
Facebook.
Webber fan, you might say they're the cats of the railway train.
Yeah.
I'm probably the only one that gets that
The
reference.
other cat is...
I was
the-
going to say, here comes the crickets, because I don't know what
You
you're
don't
talking
know.
about.
The other cat is the
It's from
Nevada
Cats.
Northern Station cat named Dirt. And he's been traveling lately.
I thought you were going to bring up the Prime Minister's cat.
Oh!
You know, these are, to put an amateur radio spin on this, these are sounding kind of like the cats from Universal Radio in Ohio.
Universal Radio or DX Engineering?
Oh, does DX Engineering have cats too?
They had one there, but I didn't pay any
I think
attention.
Universal Radio, I think they've got like 50.
We had
Okay.
an,
Oh, they didn't have that. They just had the one.
Yeah.
He was sitting on the
we were
counter.
shopping in town, and the owner, Bill, had a cat. Wasn't that Oscar?
I'm
Oscar
not for
was
sure what the names of
was
any
the
of them
cat.
are.
That's Larry, the cat at 10 Downing Street. He has
Huh.
a royal appointment as the mouse catcher.
Nice.
Does he serve something?
You know, he like I said, he's got a royal appointment. Official royal
cat.
mouser.
Never heard of a cat having a royal appointment.
He
Does
is,
it have a bloodline of royal cats?
he is the chief mouser to the Cabinet Office at 10 Downing Street since 2011.
He needs a knighthood of the Order of the Thistle.
Oh, hold on.
He
And the song Memories is going through my head.
gets look at there, a bow.
Oh, that is not. Is he sitting on the cabinet table?
Of course
Yes,
he is.
Oh,
Yes,
lucky
definitely.
cat.
Bo, do you like your photo taken up there?
This is
Well, I'm just
why the
thinking,
weather.
If it's the same table, he's on the table that Winston Churchill once sat at.
Yes.
It's
It's like he's daydreaming about this.
Where does he come up with this
Well,
information? Is what gets me.
It could be that, and it could also be me reminiscing back to the Doctor Who episode where I believe, what was it, David Tennant or was it Christopher
I
Eccleston,
know
where
the episode you're talking
they're
about.
being chased by the Slovene all throughout 10 Downing Street.
so just for the fun of it, there is evidence of a cat in residence in the English government dating back to the reign of King Henry VIII.
Interesting.
When Cardinal Thomas Wolsey placed his cat by his side while acting in his judicial capacity as Lord Chancellor. Official records, however, released into the public domain in 2005 as a part of the Freedom of blah blah blah.
Excuse me.
Blah, blah, blah. Is that official?
And they
It's
when
like the Seinfeld
A.E.
yada
Banham
yada.
at the Treasury authorized the office keeper to spend. It's one D. It's not a dollar, whatever that is, Kieran.
If it's British, it'll be pound sterling.
Yeah. A day from petty cash towards maintenance of an efficient cat. So Larry has a job to do. He has to be an efficient cat.
Can he be dethroned
Yes. They've been
or overthrown or
Wasn't
whatever?
there
the
a
case-
case of that happening?
recently. Yeah, they had a cat that they sent to some duke's house because he was not an efficient cat.
He didn't like to mouse.
Mm.
Oh, it was Sybil. And Sybil was replaced by Larry, the cat. Sybil was owned by then the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Alison Darling, who lived in 10 Downing Street, while the then Prime Minister Gordon Brown lived in the larger 11 Downing Street. There has been some, oh boy, royal cat drama in the.
Drama. This is sounding like Rodney's house.
I need a sound effect for you now, Kieran.
What's it gonna be? Bad boys, bad boys.
It's gotta have to
What
come
you
from
gonna
Top
do?
Gear.
What you gonna do when they come for you?
It's gotta be from Top Gear, man.
Oh goodness.
I tell
Do
you
we have
what.
any other questions about flooding? By the way, we got into cats, and
Yeah.
I don't think we're coming back.
Well, I'm not sure. You know, we haven't had any outside input, but I've asked all the questions I think I need to ask. But it will bear further investigation as we go. Patty was also supposed to have another special guest who was actually a 20-year firefighter. In what town, dear?
I can't remember now. I can't remember. Forgive me. I've been chatting with him for 10 years and I can never remember the township he's from.
But
Bless you.
we will continue this subject because it's a subject of concern.
Royal cats.
Well, the flooding. I don't know about the royal cats.
Oh, okay.
You know, the big hoopla lately is now. Let me tell you about Larry. The police officer who stands guard at 10 Downing is instructed when Larry wants in, he's supposed to go and knock on the door and let Larry in. Well,
Sounds like my cat.
one of the times that he did so, he opened the door and gave the cat the boot right in. So
I remember seeing that one.
it was a bit of a drama.
Was somebody offended?
I'm sure the cat was. I mean, do cats have
What'd he do? Cop a hairball up on his feet or his shoes the next day?
Now, okay. This leads me to a question that I am genuinely curious on because I've not heard anything in the media the last 3.5 years. So, of course, we all know, what was it? The Clintons had a cat that I think his name was Socks.
Yeah.
The Bushes had 1 or 2 Scottish Terriers, I think. The Obamas had Bo, the Portuguese water dog. Do the Trumps have any pets in the White House? I have not heard.
Well, this is
I have never seen it.
For... Oh, let me find it.
You need to be quicker on this.
He
First
really
president
does.
in a century with no dog.
Really?
Yep.
First president since James Polk to not have any pets.
At least, what was it? Was it Wilson or Taft at least had a horse?
They have no presidential pet. And in fact, when you look at United States presidential pets on Wikipedia, there's a picture of Socks standing at the podium.
Cool.
Benjamin Harrison had 2 alligators and
Well,
a goat.
because he was
And-
Benjamin Harris?
2 possums.
Well, I don't know if those are technically considered pets, Patty. I think they ended up at the table at one of the state dinners.
Benjamin Harrison? Wait a minute.
Yeah.
I guess this deserves this.
Oh my.
Calvin Coolidge had a donkey. Reuben, a male raccoon, acquired as a companion for Rebecca the raccoon, but he soon escaped and was not recovered. Nip
He
and
went over
Tuck,
to
the
Maryland.
Canaries. Goldie, which was a yellow bird. Do Funny, a trained songbird from South America. Enoch the goose. Smokey the bobcat. Tax Reduction and Budget Bureau lion cubs from Johannesburg. Billy the pygmy hippopotamus, a wallaby that was promptly given to a zoo.
Are you sure
I
this
don't
wasn't
even-
just the presidential menagerie?
I'm wondering here. I don't even know what this is or how to say it. A duiker, a small type of antelope also sent to a zoo. Bruno, a black bear from Chihuahua, Mexico, also sent to a zoo. And Pekin ducks. I guess these were gifts from different people to him.
Is
Oh
that
my
you,
God.
Rodney?
Warren
It's
G.
not
Harding
me. I
had-
swear, that wasn't me laughing.
No, the donkey noises in the background.
Oh no,
So Warren G.
Kieran,
Harding
did you
had
just make
Peter
some
Squirrel.
noises?
I did.
Oh, that
Oh.
was Steve. Although, real quick, interesting note. You said Calvin Coolidge had a pet donkey.
That's what
Yeah.
started it.
Yeah, he was a member of the Republican Party.
Okay.
So think
so
about
we're gonna
that.
pull up Theodore Roosevelt here.
Oh,
Who
okay.
had
Oh, we go
We're gonna
all
make it
over the
fair.
place on this
We're gonna
show.
make it
Sorry,
fair.
folks.
He had Baron Spreckle the hen, Bill the lizard, brought from California and described as a horned frog. Blackjack the terrier, Eli Yale the macaw, Emily Spinach, a garter snake, pony, dogs, terriers. Jonathan Edwards, a small black bear from West Virginia, who was sent to the Bronx Zoo. Jonathan
so
the
excited
Peeble
about
rat.
that.
Here is a
Yes.
kicker. Josiah the badger. During a
What?
railroad tour of the West, he acquired a
Oh, man.
2-week-old
I'm
badger
gonna hear about the
at
honey
a shop
badger here in a
in
minute.
Springs, Kansas.
No,
Peter
Rodney,
Rabbit and Bill the laughing hyena and a one-legged rooster.
no, Rodney. The big deal about Theodore Roosevelt having a pet bear is because you do realize the teddy bear is named after Teddy Roosevelt.
Well, yeah, I get that.
Because
but-
there's a story that supposedly he was going to shoot a bear and he decided to let it go, and that's why they called teddy bears teddy bears.
This is why they call it rhetoric.
Of which we spout much.
So, Kieran, you're not allowed
Sounds
to
like it's time for
participate
the
in the
rant.
next question. What are the Queen's pets?
I actually can't remember.
Oh,
Well, I don't know if they're current, but I know what she used to keep.
she has
Yeah,
always
I know,
kept.
I know she had.
As a hint, always.
She had her own little herd of corgis.
She does.
Yeah. I know.
Now
she
my
loads
my
of them.
question
I don't know
is,
if
are
she's
they
got that.
cardigan or Pembroke?
Pembroke,
Pembrokes.
Welsh,
Are they?
Corgi dogs. Elizabeth II.
Is there a group of corgis called something else?
Well, you've got two different types. You've got the Pembroke and you've got the cardigan, and I can't remember which is which, but one of them has a big long tail, and I think the other one basically has a little bobtail.
Don't they have to cut those though? Don't they cut those when they're puppies?
I don't
think so.
on
I
the
think
one
they're
that
born
has the
bobtail.
yeah, I think they're born that way. The ones that have the little bobtails.
So I'm seeing a headline here that her last corgi has passed.
Oh,
She's had 30 over the time that she has been queen, as well as Dorgies, Black Labs, and Cocker Spaniels.
Oh, I didn't know about the others.
Yeah, I know she had a Cocker Spaniel before. Yeah, I knew she had corgis. I just can't remember. I couldn't remember when the last one passed.
That's been recent, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. The Telegraph says She's had them for, oh wow, she's had corgis in her life for 74 years. This was October 26th of 2018.
It
A
was.
couple of years ago.
It come from King George the Sixth, the Queen Mother, and the Queen Mother. That her parents had them too.
Cool, cool. Cool, I find quite interesting her mother's name was also Elizabeth.
Yeah. Well, she's the Queen Mother.
Well, was the Queen.
I don't know how you would address her as Madam Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother.
No, I think because unless they completely got it wrong in the crown, I think she's still referred to as Queen Elizabeth. She's just not the Queen. The Queen would be Elizabeth II. Her mother, the Queen Mother, would just be Queen Elizabeth, and then her grandmother, Mary of Teak, would just have been Queen Mary.
And now Kieran is wondering how it is that these Americans know so damn much about the royal family.
Anglophiles.
It's really easy. Google.
Google.
We pretty much told George III to kick it to the curb, but yet we kept watch of everything they did.
Okay, awkward crickets.
Awkward crickets. We're sitting here thinking of the next thing to say. Now, I will say this. We did run that long last night. And
what, 4.5 hours about?
it was long, yeah. And as opposed to tonight, which we're still in the under 2 hour range.
Yes. Barely, but we are under.
I'm going to send you 2 photos that we can maybe use to share before we go into the 5-minute rant. So, image
Get ready
capture.
with your sound effect, Rodney.
Oh, I've got it queued up.
Okay.
Got it queued up. He's ready.
You sure you're going to be fast enough this time?
That's why I told him to get ready.
I'm gonna have a rant about that.
That's a pretty nice street you guys are hanging out
All you
on
need to do
there.
is get a button box.
Although it does look like now we are down to 1 tornado warning in northern Arkansas, and it expires in 18 minutes.
So what I'm doing here is taking shots of the convective outlook for today, tomorrow, and the following day. And let me get those sent over in chat. The remnants of Hurricane Laura are going to be affecting the continental U.S. On into the weekend. And so persons in highlighted areas, take note, this storm is still producing tornadoes as it goes along. There's still some pretty gusty winds and torrential downpours. Ugh. Of course, I exceeded the maximum. We'll try this again. So it's good as the storm progresses east to keep an eye out, to be weather aware, and as we were talking about earlier, we have so many different ways in this country of receiving weather. There's really not any excuses to be outside this weekend and not be aware of what might happen, so that you can be safe and enjoy the last of the summer. I've sent them, I think, in order. I'm hoping 3 will load up here. Currently,
Is that the one?
Okay, there's,
looking
I think,
for
the
it?
third one.
yeah, that's the third one.
Okay, yeah.
So, currently, there's actually been a report of a tornado confirmed by emergency management out of Jonesboro.
Yeah, I think that's the one that I was just looking at. I've actually got a spotter network report on it. Oh, and don't zoom out, Franklin. That gets rid of it. Let me pull this back up again. Looks like 4 miles north of Brooklyn, Arkansas, which is just a little bit northeast of Jonesboro. They are saying a large tornado on the ground just north of Goobertown, illuminated by power flashes.
Did
And
you say
that was-
Goobertown?
He
That's
did
how-
say Goobertown.
Yeah, that's how they've got it in here. It's spelled Gooberton.
Goobertown.
That'd be
That's
Goobertown.
how they spelled it.
Is it Gooberton?
Gooberton, yeah. Like
The
in,
timing on
Could
it
you
was at
imagine? I live in
9:30.
Goobertown.
well, you could be living in Japan.
You could be living in Effingham, Illinois.
Be a lot of places.
That is a place
so
in Missouri.
Steve's got up right now is the current convective outlook. This is for right now. And it does highlight an area across the northern continental United States, driving some storms. Well, obviously in our western states, all the way to New York and out into the Atlantic. The area of concern we've been focusing on is a little closer to home, Paragould, Arkansas, Jasper, Arkansas area, where they've got wind damage reports and a confirmed tornado. Moving on into tomorrow, you can see the progression of the storm. If you would change, please.
Next slide.
Next
Slide.
slide. You'll see where Laura continues to progress across Tennessee and Kentucky, while we have an area actually of greater concern that moves across the Midwest of the country. Low pressure system are driving that. I think all modes of severe weather are possible with that. What I was reading earlier, areas that were affected by the derecho 3 weeks ago are under this. So if I pray and that they don't have any more cleanup they have to do. Many of them are still cleaning up. And then next slide.
All right, hang on. Crash and burn here. Hang on.
There's that was my trail through the woods up the river. Or it's actually a creek.
There we go.
All right, and Laura appears to pick up steam and then affect the East Coast on is that Saturday? That would be day 3. And we've actually got a chance at some showers that day ourselves. So fingers crossed, because we are in a pretty big drought here.
I'll be right back.
I think we're supposed to have some rain also maybe Sunday as well.
Possible severe storms on Saturday. So we shall see what happens with that.
And then there's one more thing, I suppose, that we could look at before we rant. For those about to rant, we salute you. The smoke from the wildfires in California.
Oh yeah.
That is quite interesting.
Did you get the link I sent that they've actually got an app for that through the weather through HRRR, one of the models that is for smoke? Did you see that when I posted that?
I don't know. This is still loading. I'll go ahead and transition over. But you can see in California where the fires are originating. And as the sun sets, it gets pretty radical looking. But that smoke is being carried clear to the Atlantic Ocean. So, probably not a big surprise. We're going to have clear weather in the next few days. So if you are a photographer and want a beautiful sunset, you're going to get it.
We missed it tonight.
Well,
Gorgeous sunset.
I got a little bit of some shots the other night, but they weren't as good as I would like for them to have been. I had the indoor tennis court building in between me and the sunset.
anyway,
It's the same I have here. Is I don't really have anywhere clear enough to take any pictures. It's right next to a big forest.
Mhm. I think Steve had the right idea. He was utilizing one of the parking garages near downtown, and I'm thinking about trying that next time.
it's the easiest way to get away from power lines, and that's, you can find high spots, but there's always power poles and other crap in the way that makes it so
Well, you
it's
see,
impossible.
that's one thing that I kind of like about the park up here is because there's not really power lines crossing the park that much. They kind of more run along the side of it. But I've got that big, huge indoor tennis court building that was between the sunset and the parking lot that I was taking the pictures out of. So most of the sky that was real nice was being blocked by it and a few trees around it. Now I got some fairly decent pictures later on of kind of some of the clouds up above that were starting to take on some color, but by that time I had to leave because I had to go run someone to go get food to eat. So by the time I got back, the sun was completely set.
All right, so for those about to rant, we salute you. Who wants to go first?
We gotta wait for Rodney. Oh, and cue the sound effects.
Cue the sound effects. This is the 5-minute rant.
Where is he?
I gotta still find that one that has to do with all the breaking glass. That is so funny. If you've never seen that or heard that, I'll have to play that off the air and let you guys hear it, because that is going to be the next effect. It is so funny. Anyway, 5-minute rant. Take it away.
All right, who goes first? I'll
I
start.
think since
Okay.
it was kind of
I'll volunteer.
okay.
So, I sit and watched hurricane coverage last night, and I watched and listened, at least tried to listen to the hurricane net. And I'm going to tell you right now, I know at least 2 people, one of them is in this group right now, who has more radio than these guys trying to be net control on the Hurricane Watch net. And
I hope you're saying Rodney.
yes. I mean,
I got caught in the rant.
100 watts in a wire isn't going to cut it. And for great long periods of time, I never heard net control. And it's even worse on 20 meters than it was on 40. At least on 40 meters, you can kind of be heard in the central coverage area of the United States. But they had net controls that were like in Florida, and it's like they were beaming it out to sea or something because you couldn't hear them.
I tried earlier whenever we were talking about it in the Skywarn Net Control chat. I got on 7290 and I couldn't hear anything.
I heard voices, but to be honest with you, I've got a really great antenna for 40 meters, and to be honest with you, the guy that has M squared antennas that's located in California, when he talks, he's between 20 and 30 over here in Missouri.
Yeah.
And it's like, guys, if you're going to have a HF net control, he needs to have power.
Yeah.
It's
because everyone needs to hear you if you're net control.
Right. And the Hurricane Watch net, it's like the guy called for hours.
It's a major deal.
listening for stations in the affected area, stations in the affected area, any relays from the affected area. He heard nothing. And I'm guessing the reason why he heard nothing because they were
heard
evacuated.
I heard one station after you laid down for your nap, and it was someone who had set up down there to help,
Right.
and they were testing their antenna.
Now, this hurricane did not do the damage they were expecting. For one, it blew ashore in Acacia, which, if you know anything about that southwest corner of Louisiana, there is not a lot of people that live there, and the ones that live there are damn poor.
That's what I've heard.
It's, your big city, which would have been Lake Charles, but honestly, this is no Katrina. Katrina blew ashore in a place where there were many concentrated poor people that could not deal with things for themselves. And secondly,
and the dikes broke and drowned them.
Right. Secondly, the wind was in the right direction that blew the wind right into Lake Pontchartrain, which flooded the whole entire city. And that didn't happen on this one. They were predicting at some point 15-foot storm surge.
15 to 20.
Not thinking that the wind was blowing parallel to the beach. It's not going to blow the storm surge inland. It's going to just not do it. So
we can't compare it to Rita. We can't.
Well, Katrina, that's where, everybody's scared that's going to be another Katrina. Well, for one, there wasn't that many people there. But I'm just, I don't know. If I was running Hurricane Watch Net or any of the Texas Aries nets, I didn't hear them either. You need to have a hoss of a station with a lot of power running net control because people need to hear you.
Yeah.
And, if we're going to...
Yeah, particularly an emergency net such as this.
If we're going to continue as ham operators to be an emergency source, we've got to have reliable communications. And that's not reliable. And you can't go, well, I didn't have band conditions. You know what? I hear South Africa every night. Don't tell me we don't have band conditions.
and I'm not meaning to be hateful, but if someone whose house just got blown away by a hurricane or a tornado and they have no other way of getting assistance and they need help, are they going to care whether or not you had bad conditions?
No, not at all.
No.
But I'm going to go over it, looks like. But, that's my big complaint is if we're going to be ham operators and we're going to provide emergency communications, it needs to work. And the same goes for us here. I mean, if we're going to provide emergency communications in the background, we need to have systems that work. Not just people that think correctly, but systems, like radio systems that work.
And traditionally, that's kind of why amateurs have been kind of that backup for civil authorities, hospitals, law enforcement, and stuff like that during natural disasters, times of civil unrest, is because we traditionally have had the equipment to do it. We've maintained infrastructure, if you will, to do such independently of commercial means and any other system.
Yeah.
Largely, a lot of times, depending on the setup needed, could be set up in 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, and we're good to go. So that kind of almost is a little bit of a black mark on our history in a way.
Yeah. The one thing that I saw tonight, that's the first time I've ever seen it ever, and I've been monitoring this on and off for more than 15 years. APRS had a beacon that was beaconing out the weather forecast for the Ozarks this evening. I've never seen that. until today, and it was called WX Bot. I didn't dig into it to see what the call sign was behind it, but suffice it to say that it took 4 or 5 runs through to get the entire text message that he was sending out. But the fact of it is, I could decode it. And I could have decoded it on an HT without emergency or commercial power anywhere that you could hear the repeater here in town. So, you know, it's possible. There's things out there to make this work. But, you know, we got to get past the old guy at the Hamfest with a walker and a couple of squealing hearing aids and move into the 21st century, I think. I say that, and the big amp that I have was built in 1955. But that don't matter. It's got 800 watts.
It gets the job done.
I was going to say, but it keeps up with the times.
Rodney
Now that
and
is a
Jordan
rant.
have the best systems for modern because they're solid state. You flip a switch and you're high power. All you got to worry about is making sure your antenna's up to the task. When Rodney speaks, he can be heard. That's important. When Jordan his station was going, when he spoke, he could be heard. Although I could say both of you could stand for some antenna improvements, but the truth is, not really, because you're working better than most.
My inverted L has gotten out better than I've ever had. But again, I've not experienced the vertical yet, so I guess once we figure that out, that'll make a difference. But
well, it's a efficiency of antenna, and truthfully, the most efficient antenna is a dipole, cut for the frequency you're operating on. Not everybody has that. I used to dominate, and I love that Reed Timmer word. I dominated 3916 with a barefoot 520 radio and a double bazooka cut for 3900. I had a 1-to-1 SWR. When I talked, they could hear me unless we had noise. Like, I don't know, you've heard Jimmy up in St. Louis as net control.
you betcha.
He always heard me. And there were times that there was so much noise we couldn't hear each other, but I could always get out. Somebody heard me somewhere. And everybody thought I was running power, but I wasn't. I just had an antenna up there high enough where it got the job done. So, I'm not going to tell you I'm all in love with verticals, but they just seem to be working the best for me right now. Okay, my rant's done. I'm happy.
That was a 12-minute rant.
I'm ranted. Okay, who's next?
I think Kieran should go next.
I think Kieran should go.
That's fine. As I said before,
Here we go. We've got at least a 15-minute rant coming. Here we go.
No,
Okay.
Today's quite a short and simple one.
Okay.
Recently around here, besides all the flooding and all of that lot, and this goes off a little bit of off tangent to what you guys normally talk about, but then this is kind of related to my job, what I do. We've had an awful lot of kidnappings and attempted kidnappings, child abductions around here. And Rodney knows me, and Rodney, you know that just
Burns
kind of
you
a crime that tips me over the edge. Anything involving children does, to be honest, and Rodney knows a lot more about the backstory of why that is.
Yep.
I just don't understand it. I do not understand it. I don't understand why they would pick children of all things.
They can't fight back.
Yeah, that's the problem.
They're vulnerable.
And unfortunately, that's probably why a lot of them pick them, because they are easy targets.
it's absolutely horrible. I mean, today and yesterday, we've had 8 attempted and 3 that have actually been abducted.
Mm.
That's
Well,
one of the
yeah.
guys that I was arresting, but was why I thought I was going to be late to this. We took one of them into custody earlier tonight.
Yeah, I think we had an Amber Alert in our area not too long, like within the last 24
Yesterday,
hours.
or
Yesterday, I
2
think it
days ago.
was.
2 days ago.
Was it 2?
And that wound up being fake.
Ooh,
It was fake?
Yes.
that's not good.
The
Fake.
mother had warrants out. The father had warrants out. And mother had given birth in a trailer or some type of mobile home of some kind. And didn't want to go to the hospital because of the warrants. So the story was confabulated. She gave birth alongside the road, and someone came in, picked up the child, and was supposed to take it to the hospital to be checked. And the child disappeared. Well, what happened? That person took the baby to the home of other family members. Now, who turned who in for what, I don't know. But mother was taken into custody. Father is still on the lam, and the baby is going to state officials.
Sorry about that, Kieran. Go ahead.
I'm sorry that
That's fine. I don't really have much more to say on the matter. It's just something it gets to me because it's just, to me, it's just one of them. It's worse than murder, as much as that sounds bad, but that's how that crime ranks to me. Anyway,
Do you think it's more of it going on, or is more people reporting it?
no, it's definitely more of it going on. I mean, we never had this many reports of it, and kidnapping is something that always gets reported in this area, especially when it's child abductions and stuff like that. I live in quite a safer area of the Hampshire, and it's always been reported, but the reports have just gone up and up and up. But then we kind of know reasons why. It's just trying to put a stop to it.
is it child trafficking, or is this families disputing over
This is
custody?
we believe that there's a child trafficking ring going through the area, and doing it because it used to be the reports went up in our neighbouring areas, and over the past few weeks they went down, and now they're coming back up in this area. So we think it's a gang that's going around doing it.
They may have kind of shifted area of operations for a while.
Yeah. It's one of those ones that it's such a bad one in my books, and
Yeah.
it irks me the wrong way.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Well,
Just
I've never been one to be a big fan of vigilante justice, except in those kind of cases.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way.
I can very much understand that, which of course, me kind of being a bit of a Democrat, even though I kind of say that I'm somewhat of a conservative Democrat, if there is such a thing. I do, for certain crimes, I do wholeheartedly believe in the death penalty. And a couple areas that are not traditionally considered capital offense crimes, rape particularly serial rape or rape against a child, or pretty much almost anything violence against a child, I could at least in my head see an argument for justification for those being capital crimes.
And I would like to see that sort of brought back in the UK. Not only for charges like murder and all of that lot, but again for things like this. Because a lot of them are sick in the head quite often, and there is no helping them. And unfortunately, after they do their time, you let them go, they do it again. And, you know, it's kind of like, where do we sort of toe the line, and how do we stop this from happening again, and still, you know, get in the confines of the law and stuff like that. It just turns into a mess. And when we arrest somebody, 9 times out of 10, I can normally tell whether that person is kind of going to come out of the crime sprees and stuff like that, or whether they are just absolutely gone, and, you know, no matter what you do to them,
there's someone that's going to do it again.
Yeah. I'm not going to say 100% of the time, because I have been wrong, and I can be wrong, but 90% of the time, as soon as you arrest them, you can normally tell.
Well, I'd say you deal so much with that sort of crime, and the people who commit that crime, you're so aware of it and around it so much, you probably would have a pretty good sense of, you know, I think this is someone who could be rehabilitated, or this person here, all we can do is lock them up and try to keep them locked up, because there's just no helping them. They are a person that, no matter what you try to do to help them, they are going to continue doing this.
There used to be, and it was the Diagnostic and Statistics Manual used by mental health professionals. There used to be a diagnosis of compulsive criminal, and that was dropped some years ago. We actually would house those in state facilities here in the U.S. And this was child abusers, other perverts, for lack of a better word, and others that just couldn't help themselves. They go into a store and they put something in their pocket, not being able to stop themselves. So
almost compulsive type behavior.
Exactly. It's called kleptomania, but you know, they don't address it in that way. And I'm with Kieran. I'm concerned about the uptick in trafficking, and it's not just children in this country. It is children and young adults, actually people of all ages.
Yeah.
And it's horrific.
And it's been a general uptick for probably at least 5 years now, if not longer.
Well, within the last 5, noticeably more.
Yeah.
And it's not that big of a trend over here. I mean, at the moment it is, like the past few weeks. And it's just sort of gone from a nice sort of steady line, and you just sort of see this big massive spike, like when it comes to the past few weeks. I mean,
that gets concerning, doesn't it?
It's very concerning for me, especially in my line of work, when I see the outcome of this almost daily, and it's not nice for everyone involved. Because quite often, when we're dealing with the gangs and all of that lot, we quite often don't find the person either ever, or we certainly don't find them alive.
That's a shame.
My
Which
vote
is
is we
one of-
do to him what they did to Guy Fawkes.
I
Drawn,
don't remember what they did with Guy Fawkes.
hung,
Drawn and quartered.
and quartered.
Ah, he got the
The
got
royal.
the William Wallace treatment.
The royal execution.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
That would stop it.
I think more people should get that.
Not a pleasant thing. But, yeah.
Not a pleasant crime that they committed, though.
Exactly.
I think people behaved themselves more because they knew that could happen to them.
And again, that
Yeah.
I think that is part of the problem. Is a lot of the punishments over here are, well, if you can call them a punishment. Sometimes, I mean, attempted kidnap is normally only a couple of years. Kidnapping, you'd be lucky to get 5.
Yeah, you know, it's an odd example of extremes. On the low end, you've got that. Then on the high end, you have some of the mandatory minimums that we have over here, where I think one of the big, huge examples that I've always heard used is the difference between crack cocaine and powdered cocaine. Powdered cocaine typically carries a much lighter sentence, but crack cocaine usually, even for a first offense, has a very high mandatory minimum. Now, some people have said that this is a economic or racial thing because typically users of powdered cocaine are more upper middle class, affluent people, sometimes tend to be white, sometimes not, whereas a lot of the crack cocaine users usually tend to be poorer people, sometimes people from the African American community and other minority groups. I kind of, in a way, disagree with the concept of a mandatory minimum. I kind of understand that it's, in theory, supposed to put a stiff punishment behind a harsh crime. But sometimes you do have someone, this is their first offense, they got wrapped up into something maybe they didn't quite understand. I think the judge should have leniency to be able to say, okay, you know, I've looked at this person's record, this is the only thing on the record, this is a first offense, I've talked to people who know this person who says they are generally a good person, they just got wrapped up in this. If the judge feels like that there's reason to have leniency there, they should be able to say, okay, I'm going to give them this light sentence, maybe they have to go through some years of probation. If they slip up, we're going to enact this harsher punishment, but they should have the option, not, you know, I think this would be a great case to use leniency on, but my hands are tied. I have to give you the minimum of 8 or 10 years in prison.
And that is definitely a good thing. I do agree with the judge and all of that. They should have the power to do that.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, a lot of the laws that go over here, we don't have mandatory minimums. But what we do have are just very minimal sentences for everything. I mean, the judge does have, you know, the power to grant high sentences or low sentences, but it just seems to be more of a factor of the judge just seems to set low sentences for most people. Even we've arrested big, heavy drug dealers and stuff like that. Ones that have been, you know, accountable for deaths and all this lot.
Or this is like their 5th or 6th time for these same charges.
Yeah, and all they get is 1 or 2 years in jail.
I think we're losing Rodney.
This is because I'm talking. Even when I'm on the phone with him on Messenger, he falls asleep.
I swear, I listen to you. I swear I listen to you.
He's like Marty McFly towards the end of Back to the Future.
Yeah.
He's phasing into the background. It was great. I could not resist that screenshot.
And it's only when I talk as well.
And I keep telling him he is not a boring person. He is not. Maybe his voice is soothing. I don't know. But it's almost 10:30 on my. I mean, I can't say anything because Kieran's time is almost 4:30, so I can't say anything. But my body says it's about time for bed. So what can I do?
Tell your body it's lying.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've tried that many times. It ain't happening.
Take
And-
anti-melatonin.
Oh, now we've lost him completely.
I know what melatonin is, but anti-melatonin would be crack.
No, it'd be melatonin with an opposite charge and spin.
Okay.
Obviously, Rodney, who calls himself a Whovian, does not know how antimatter works.
Espresso.
That too.
Hold on. I never called myself a Whovian. I watch it occasionally, but not enough to call myself a Whovian.
And what is your phone's ringtone?
That's my wife's ringtone for me. That has nothing to do with my ringtone. And she got it because it was loud.
Well, true. The TARDIS is loud.
Her sound
Depends
is
on
not.
what volume the phone's at.
It's
though.
not the TARDIS though. The sound effect is actually the theme. I'm not going anywhere with this.
Okay. Next.
I don't have a rant. I swear.
I'm trying to think up one, that's why I'm stalling.
Patty.
So I was going to rant about schools closing and then opening daycares and charging the parents to keep their kids. But I think I've got more weighing on my heart. Well, that's a worthy rant, for sure. We'll only school your kids 2 days a week, but we're going to charge you $360 to send them to daycare for a week. No.
Yikes.
Anyway, now what's on my heart is suicide. And it is a coward's way out. It is a permanent solution to temporary situation. And while I do fully understand the mindset of people who become suicidal, there's always other options. There's always somebody to talk to. There's always help out there. And if your brain is telling you there is not, that's the depression inside of you talking. Last night, while we were live with the hurricane, I received word that one of my friend's grandmothers committed suicide. And my heart goes out to this child who is trying so hard to overcome family situation that has been a struggle her entire life. And she's done so well. She's a senior. She wants to be a dental hygienist. She's got goals, and she has really worked to put herself in a better place and does have family support. What her what her grandmother did was totally selfish. She's now left a legacy behind that cannot be erased or changed. And it will impact people, not just those who were close to her and loved her, but her friends and people like myself who have been affected because we are concerned for the immediate family members. So if you think you have no one as a part of those suicidal thoughts, there are people who care. You may not recognize it. You may not want to recognize it or have the energy to see how important you are. I like to say that God makes no junk, and I'm serious when I say that. We are all put here for a purpose, and whether you believe in God or Allah or what other being may be there, or the same name for the same being, um, we are created in the image of something much greater than ourselves. And sometimes we need a hand up so we can fulfill that purpose we are here for. That is my rant.
Well said.
Good rant.
Yes.
I was going to say, drop the mic. Literally, that's what that felt like right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Drop the mic.
Next.
Okay, I guess I have somewhat of a rant. It's not really necessarily a rant, maybe a slight disappointment. So, as most of you know, Kieran may not quite know, I have not like a huge amount, but I have a decent amount of some vintage photography equipment, some of which I acquired just right after I lost my last job from my last job. And some of it, as far as I have ever owned it, it's all worked great, but it's never really been serviced. One of the biggest ones that I really would like to have looked at is actually right here. I just put the motor drive back on it today, my Canon F1. It's in fairly decent shape, but I'm concerned that the needle, because it's a match needle system for manual metering, I'm concerned that the little round needle for the aperture in the viewfinder is slightly off. I don't know if that's something that could be fixed, and of course all of these older cameras, I'm concerned whether the shutters are right on timing, which they can be adjusted if they're not. I would like to have some of them sit in for what's called a CLA, a clean, lube, and adjustment. Well, the local camera store doesn't do that, figures. And most of the places that I have looked at online do not mention pricing just specifically for CLA. It's just general repair work, and unless you need some kind of parts ordered or specialized parts, it's a flat rate. Most of them are anywhere between $250 and $350. I could understand that if I'm having repair work done, and I realize some of this to clean some stuff inside and possibly to check the shutter and align the shutter timing, that they may have to partially disassemble the camera. And I'm sure that's time consuming and everything, but I'm thinking to myself, just to do a general clean, lube, and shutter alignment, should that cost as much as a full-on repair?
I would not think so.
I wouldn't. I would think maybe, maybe $100, $150 to CLA a camera. That still would be a bit of change for me, but that would be something that I could maybe more manageably do every couple months or like one a quarter. But like $300, $350, I'm thinking I could only maybe do one of those a year. And it's just been very frustrating to kind of try to find some place to send these cameras and lenses into to get them in top-notch shape without literally breaking the bank.
I mean, you could go straight to Canon, but they'd probably charge an arm and a leg.
I bet you most of this stuff, this is all stuff from the 70s and 80s. They probably wouldn't even touch them. I have a Sigma 28 to 300 millimeter lens that I bought with my Elan 7 probably about 2002, 2003. The autofocus motor has failed twice in it, and I had recently found out that part of the reason why they were known to fail so readily was because they actually used plastic gears in the autofocus motor instead of metal ones. The first time it failed, it was while it was still under the 5-year warranty, and I had sent it into Sigma and had it replaced. It failed the second time years later. I had, within the last year, I'd actually emailed Sigma and said, is there anything that you can do with this? I'd like to get it working again. Could you possibly even repair it, even if I had to pay for it? And they basically emailed me back a nice letter saying, they were sorry that I had the problem. Unfortunately, it is beyond the service life of the lens. They can't even repair it at cost anymore. They did very nicely tell me, though, that they do have a program and there's no time limit on it. If I would be interested in purchasing another Sigma lens and I would mail them that lens back, they would trade it in for so much off on a new lens, and said a lot of times they will do up to 25% off. So there's at least that for that particular lens, but I could probably, and I probably might email Canon, but I'm pretty well certain they're going to say, we don't even have parts for these cameras and lenses anymore. There's nothing we can do for you.
Yeah.
Need to talk to them
Like
Jewish dudes in New York.
So
yeah.
I just posted
I
a
saw
card, and that came from a group I need to invite you to.
Mhm.
It is called Ozarks Shutter Junkies, and one of our great mentors in there has started using this gentleman for servicing. Assures folks that he works on many, many issues with cameras and at reasonable rates. So Bob is very, what's the word I'm looking for? He scrutinizes providers of services highly.
Gotcha.
And he would not make this recommendation lightly. So you might check with this person.
Yeah, I just now saved that image to my desktop, and I will check out his website and see if he's got an email address and get in contact with him. If not, I'll give him a call at the number. Thank you, Patty.
Hey, you're welcome. That just popped up in our group this week, and as soon as I get done sharing here, I will. I'm sharing a post about water levels from yesterday.
Gotcha.
So
Rodney?
what?
You're the
I
last
came up
one.
with one.
I take a pass for next week. How about that?
Everybody got a chance to rant?
Yeah. I mean, I don't really have a rant other than I was just upset that I ordered an unsweet tea and they gave me a sweet tea, so I had nothing to drink all day. Rant said 30 seconds.
Well,
And you see me, I would have gone back around and started arguing with them.
Yeah, I know, but I didn't realize it till I got actually to the deal. I should have tasted it before I left, but
I
always check all
try.
the food and all of the drinks before I drive away, because I got so many little ones. I got so many drinks, so much food and all that. It's not normal for them to mess something up.
I try.
it's normal in our
as
area.
specific as possible on stuff like that, like sweet tea, unsweet tea. I will even sometimes, if I suspect that they've got it wrong, I will even ask them, okay, could you go ahead and please repeat the order back to me? And kind of like what Kieran said, me and Mom have just gotten into the habit of, before we pull off the lot, just checking everything, because sure enough, the one time we don't, something got left out or something got messed up. We don't go there very frequently, but every once in a while we'll go to Arby's, and Mom loves their French dip sandwiches. And I swear to God, the last 2 or 3 times that we have went there, they have not included her cup of au jus. And we're 2 miles down the road before
criminal
we
offense.
notice it. The first time she was miffed. The second time she was living.
Yeah, I bet. I could just see Becky going off on that.
Where's
my Jew? That's
and I can't remember if it happened a third time in a row. I just remember the last time she told me, you better tell them to make sure they put it in there.
Hey Franklin, you want to press charges?
I'm sure my mom would have.
He's like, I know a guy.
All I can do, all I have to do is put it in the database.
Well,
sorted.
And see, that is why I am perfectly content with a roast turkey ranch and bacon sandwich. There is no extra cup of anything to put in the bag to dip it in.
Oh boy.
So,
that's why I'm perfectly content with my KFC.
The goal of the 5-minute rant, I think, has been met this evening. So therefore,
successful. Cool.
I feel better.
That is certainly peace right there. That's a happy little guy.
A lot like Ollie.
Is he like Ollie?
Yeah.
So you get a rough day, just think about that little fella. You're cute.
Yeah, I got my little fella right there.
Okay. Well, guys, in order to get some of those who need to work in the morning off to work or off to sleep, I personally have had a great night tonight with the great sharing and fact-finding about what things are like over in the UK.
That was great. I really appreciate that, Kieran.
Yeah.
Yeah, anytime.
Well.
Yeah, it's always interesting to see how different areas, even over here, but also different countries, how they handle things, how some things are similar, but other things are different.
It just seems like their priorities are kind of messed up.
We'll get Kieran over here during the tornado season, and
I can hook you up with a ride to Tornado Chase for 2 weeks.
Not quite
you'd
sure.
send him with Wayne Dean.
Well, think about that.
Why not?
You've done everything else,
on one
Kieran.
hand, I think it'd be fun, and on the other hand, I'm thinking too much responsibility here.
If they're doing it right and responsibly, you're not that close to the storm. You
Almost
really
nobody ever dies from chasing tornadoes.
Bring the kids and make the event. I'll send him with Martin.
You'd have to have a big van.
In fact, bring the whole company. We do corporate discounts.
I can't
The
guarantee
whole
that.
of Hampshire Police Department then. Okay.
Yeah. Why not?
Hey, boys, we're going on a holiday.
Yeah, we'll just let the city burn.
Bring your commander too. He'll have fun.
He is the commander.
He is the commander.
They do go in teams of vans, so, just make it a huge getaway. So I shared with Steve before we close, we are watching an area of broad rotation that at the time I sent the photos was in Arkansas. It's just now crossing the Missouri border, right at the Oregon County and what's the next county over line.
All right.
I should know it's not Riley.
Hal.
No, it's out of our CWA.
I think that is Riley. No, Ripley.
Ripley, that's it. Donovan is there. Anyway, we're watching an area of rotation that appears to be intensifying some. This is not a warm storm. However, bears watching as this does cross into Missouri. There's torrential rainfall occurring in this area. This has been, of course, it's nighttime now, so don't wait till you hear something to take cover. If you notice changes atmospherically that don't seem right, don't hesitate to just go ahead and get yourself to a safe place or into the interior room of a house. Hopefully people will be safe. As I said, this is not a warned storm at this time, not even for any flooding, but we have had training storms across this area. And that red dot is what I'm talking about, and it was right at the triad of lines to the northwest of there. So just kind of keeping an eye on things for folks this evening. Be safe. I did only hear of 3 deaths in Louisiana last night.
Wow.
All of those were north of the immediate landfall area, well north, and it was from trees falling on homes.
Oh.
So
I know we've had quite a few deaths related to the storms over here now.
you're in a very wooded area from what I can determine. One thing I would be concerned about with all the rain that you have is you get a good windstorm in and those tree roots are going to be in loose soil because it's so wet so far down. You will start losing trees.
We already have.
Oh my.
We've already got trees. The road that's literally opposite my road has got about 50, 60 trees down on the road at the moment.
Oh my.
Yeah, because see, even over here, kind of depending on how dry or wet the soil is, how far down the roots system of the trees go, whether they're kind of compact and deep or whether they're shallow and widespread, with 60, 70 mile per hour winds, we sometimes get whole trees just completely uprooted.
Mm. Which is pretty much what's happened here. Is the whole dirt and the whole roots have just come up with the tree.
Yeah.
It is going to be a massive, massive cleanup job when it all calms down.
Oh, I'm sure.
Right, it's hard to get in there when it won't stop raining.
Yeah.
Well, this has been sort of slowly happening over the past week. It's kind of gone really bad, then starts to get better, and then just suddenly hits you again, and then again, and again. Like, okay.
Sounds like our spring.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, what do you think, Steve?
I'm thinking that we've done it for this evening, and
That's a wrap.
yeah.
Wrap it like a candy bar.
So let's see how I got to remember what order it happened in. I think it was.
I was last.
Yeah. Rodney first,
We're late.
Kieran, Patty, Franklin. That's how it went. So, kick it
All
off,
right.
Rodney.
So do we go backwards or do we start?
Nah, you just do it in that order.
Here we go.
Kick it off, dude.
Here we go. All right. Well, like I said, if you haven't learned anything, then you haven't been paying attention. But I think getting together like this is a lot of fun. We do learn a lot. And if you guys do have the opportunity to, know someone that's interested either in whether it be weather or United Kingdom or any, cameras, whatever the case, tell them about us. Let's get some subscribers, and you just never know what you might see on here. So anyway, thanks for joining us, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week. This is K0FZ, and I say 73.
You heard it all
Whoever's
today.
next.
You got all of the updates from the UK side. If you guys do have any more questions or anything like that, please get in touch with these guys and we'll get some more questions or anything like that all raring to go for next week. And yeah, that'll be all from me. That'll be the B out.
Well, thank you all for joining us tonight. It's always a pleasure to get together with these gentlemen. I learned so much, and I hope you do too. We try to bring you a good mix of weather education, current weather events, and now a bit of global information as well. Thanks again for joining us, and like, subscribe, share. We'd love to have more folks in here. The more questions, the better. 73 to all. Be blessed from KD0AEL.
And I just want to tell everyone that I had fun. I hope that everyone enjoyed the live stream this evening. And we try to mix a bit of the serious with some humorous interludes in between. So we hope that not only do we educate and inform you, but we entertain you a little bit as well. Kind of, I think, what Gene Roddenberry once said about Star Trek. We entertain you, and then while you're disarmed, we try to introduce a heavy ideal or two. So thanks everyone for participating and watching. 73's best wishes from KD0RSJ.
And this is Steve, KA0SPM. Been a great ride tonight. Thanks so much, Kieran, for answering my questions. And you guys, it's always fun to get together, so appreciate that a bunch. Click on the thumbs up, subscribe if you've not subscribed, and that counts even if you're watching this later. And good night to all, and be safe out there.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.